our guest of honor, the representative of Right Honorable Anita Monk, the Speaker of the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Avurjen Pachuto, the Deputy Chairperson of the Finance Committee in Parliament and the Woman Representative for Pakwach District, Honorable Minister Amos Lugolobi, the Minister of State for Finance, Planning and Economic Development in charge of planning, the UNFPA country representative, Ms. Gift Malunga, the Chairperson, National Population Council, Professor Fred Wabwire Mangeni, and the Acting Director General of National Population Council, Mr. Omwa Samson Samuel. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to start our event where we're going to launch the State of Uganda Population Report for the year 2023. And I request that we rise up and honor our country as we sing the national anthem and the East African anthem. Can we have the anthems? In case we don't have the digital anthems, I would want to invite Madame Christine Chitasimbwa, our former Human Resource Officer, to come and lead us to sing the anthem.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tulilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Thank you so much. It's now my singular honor and privilege to invite Apostle Dr. Joseph Serwada, the overseer of the Born Again Faith in Uganda, to come and lead us in a word of prayer.
Let us pray. Lord our God, we are so grateful for an opportunity to stand before you again. It's been a while. We look to the past and console with those families that have lost their loved ones, people that have suffered and gone through hardships, through the year. But we also thank you for us present here, that you've accorded us yet another year. And we stand here to look at the state of the population of this nation and to pray that there will be guidelines in this meeting, that our leaders, those that are in charge of this department, will receive an anointing, an unctioning, the Spirit of God to guide them on how to use whatever you've put at our disposal to show us the way forward and to grant us your benefits. We thank you for this. In your name we pray. Amen. Please sit down. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Apostle Joseph Serwadda. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the launch of the 2023 State of Uganda Population Report. In a special way, join me, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome the new UNFPA country representative in Uganda, Ms. Gift Malunga. You're most welcome to Uganda, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And then it's my honor to welcome our chairperson, the chairperson of National Population Council, Professor Fred Wabwire Mangeni. Distinguished guests, join me to also welcome our host, the acting DG of National Population Council, who is hosting his first launch of the State of Uganda Population Report in that capacity. You're most welcome, sir. I would also want to welcome members of the National Population Council, members of board. I request that they stand up for recognition, but they will later be introduced by the chairperson when he's making his remarks. Can you stand up for recognition? We're also happy to be joined by members of parliament. I will request them to stand up for recognition. You introduce themselves. Kindly come and introduce yourself. Departments and agencies, kindly stand up for recognition. I want to recognize Mr. Godfrey Nabongo, the gentleman who has just stood up. He is the Deputy Executive Director of Uganda Bureau of Statistics. And then can our development partners stand up for recognition? Development partners, we were supposed to be joined by Her Excellency, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Netherlands in Uganda, but she has sent in her apologies. Unfortunately, she cannot join us today physically, but she's with us in spirit. And then we're also lucky to have religious leaders and cultural leaders. Kindly stand up for recognition. Thank you. And then we have members of the civil society. Members of the civil society, stand up for recognition. We have our colleagues, members of the academia. And then we are going to give out awards to winning journalists, winning population and development journalists. So we are joined by the judges who selected the winners. And at this moment, I want to request them to stand up for recognition. I want to also recognize Ms. Angela Nakafero, the Director for Gender at the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. And then, last but not least, I want to recognize my former colleagues, the members of the media. I know you're already standing up, so put up your hands for recognition. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said at the beginning, we're here to launch this year's State of Uganda Population Report, and we're launching it under the theme, Mindset Change for a Favorable Population Age Structure, a Prerequisite for Wealth Creation. I know the Acting Director General will give us more information as to why they picked this theme, but in my view, it's a very important theme because one, we need to promote wealth creation in our country, and if we are to achieve that, then we have to concentrate on mindset change and to encourage our people to focus on the quality of their families and not merely the size of their families. I believe that each one of us has a copy of the program, so in the interest of time, I will not read out the items on the program, but permit me, our guest of honor, and ladies and gentlemen, to invite the Acting Director General of National Population Council to come and make his welcome remarks. Mr. Omwa Samson Samuel. Kindly give him a hand clap.
Thank you, the MC, Chief Guest of Honor, Honorable Jane Pachuto, representing the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, our Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Lugolobi, our distinguished honorable members of Parliament, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, the Chairperson and members of the National Population Council, the UNFPA country representative, religious and cultural leaders, development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I don't hear you. Good afternoon. Yes, let's be lively. As the MC has already mentioned, today we gather here, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the launch of the 23rd edition of the State of Uganda Population Report. And as the MC has already mentioned, under the theme, Mindset Change for a Favorable Population Age Structure, a Prerequisite for Wealth Creation. Ladies and gentlemen, a favorable population age structure is considered crucial for wealth creation in any society. The concept revolves around having a balanced distribution of ages with significant portion of the population in the working age category. The report that we are going to launch today focuses on some of the critical points about the mindset that we require for achieving a favorable population age structure. The demographic landscape of our nation is a crucial determinant of our future prosperity. This year's report underscores the importance of a strategic shift in our collective mindset, a change imperative for shaping a population age structure that aligns with our aspiration for wealth creation and sustainable development. Our population is a dynamic force that, if harnessed wisely, can propel Uganda to new heights of economic prosperity. The theme for this year's report emphasizes the need for a conscious and intentional change in the way we perceive and approach demographic trends. Our dear guest of honor, ladies and gentlemen, the call for a favorable population age structure is a call for strategic investment in our human capital. It is a call to empower our youth with the skills and knowledge necessary to drive innovation, embrace technology, and contribute meaningfully to our economic growth. At the same time, we must ensure the well-being and dignity of our elderly population, recognizing their wisdom and experience as valuable assets to our society. Ladies and gentlemen, the report that our guest of honor will launch today comprises 6 chapters. The first chapter will explore the current or an overview of the demographic and economic context and highlights some of the key achievements that we have made in terms of our demographic indicators. Chapter 2 looks at the age structure and wealth creation. It highlights the disparities in human capital transition, highlighting opportunities and constraints. In this chapter, we also focus on the older persons, especially the factors influencing their involvement in savings and cooperative groups. In chapter 3, we are looking at digitalization and digital transformation and wealth creation. And we explore the advances in information and communication technology and how inclusive or exclusive it is to the various key population categories, including persons with disability. Of course, it analyzes the access and adoption of digital technologies among persons with disability and the effect on youth and youth employability. In chapter 4, we are looking at mindset and skilling for wealth creation, and we are specifically looking at the mentality among young people in terms of skills development and skills acquisition as a tool for wealth creation. So the chapter discusses the role of government in skilling programs for youth employability, the extent to which the integration of vocational education has contributed to mindset change among youth and wealth creation, and the obstacles that prevent youth training programs for positive mindset and skills development. Chapter 5, we are looking at investing in agriculture. Our dear guest of honor, our country predominantly relies on agriculture. And if we are talking of wealth creation, I think the front line we need to focus on is agriculture. This chapter brings out the intricate relationship between mindset, agricultural development, and socioeconomic transformation. Lastly, chapter 6 wraps it up in terms of giving us the policy guidance. And specifically, we look at the need to make policy and legislative reforms for the country to harness the role of community mobilization and mindset change programs for wealth creation. And in the spirit of leaving no one behind, the chapter highlights the inclusion and participation of PWDs in development programs. As I conclude, dear guest of honor, on behalf of the Council Secretariat, I wish to express my appreciation to the exceptional work done by the authors in developing the articles of the SUPRI. Some of them are here, and I wish they could stand up for recognition, the SUPRI authors. I see, yes. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for trying to tease out some of these issues and in our quest for achieving a transformative development. The council, in a particular way, acknowledges and appreciates the outstanding work also done by the technical working group for the invaluable professional support provided during the process. The Council also extends its gratitude to the government of Uganda, the United Nations Population Fund, and the Netherlands Embassy for their financial and technical support that enabled the development and production of the 2023 SUPRI. Our special thanks go to Honorable Amos Lugolobi, the Minister of State for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Professor Fred Wabwire Mangen, the Chairperson Council and Council members, for providing an enabling operational environment, overall leadership, and oversight of the National Population Council and Secretariat. In conclusion, let us embrace the findings and recommendations of the State of Uganda Population Report 2023 with a sense of purpose and urgency. Together, let us lay the foundation for a favorable population age structure that will serve as a bedrock for sustained wealth creation and a prosperous future for Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Omwa Samson Samuel, the Acting Director General of National Population Council, for underscoring the importance of a strategic shift in our collective mindset. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly give him a bigger hand clap. Our honorable guest of honor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's now my honor to invite Ms. Mildred Tuhaise, a media personality who is going to moderate the next session. You're most welcome, Mildred.
Thank you very much, Mr. Msana, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Do we need some caffeine? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. At least I can promise that we have cocktail at a later stage, so that can energize us for now as we burn down the calories that we had much earlier on. Like Mr. Msana said, my name is Mildred Tuhaise. My role is basically going to be very simple, to make sure that I invite our speakers to be able to listen. But I love that we are having this particular population report, State of the Population Report, coming out at a time that Uganda is also preparing for a population census. Because while we plan for the population, we need to know who exactly we're planning for and what they look like. And I love that the Deputy Executive Director of Uganda Bureau of Statistics is here. You know, it's normally confused with standards, but Uganda Bureau of Statistics is here, Mr. Nabongo. And Parliament is ready. I was earlier speaking to the PSST who assured us that a list of part of the supplementaries that should be released, part of it is going to be looking at population, because that is very key. We cannot plan for a nation that we do not know. Particularly if you have a household and you do not know the number of people in the household, the planning becomes very absurd, or it becomes a little bit hard. But SUPRI is very important because then it informs policy. As our members of parliament get to discuss aspects of where the money should go, I know that among the 4 key areas that government was looking at or is paying attention to in the running financial year was human capital development, matters of health, matters of education. But also, while we pay attention to human capital development, we ask, who exactly are we paying attention to? And key amongst those, of course, was mindset change. I think that is everywhere, right? Even in our families. Everywhere there is the aspect of mindset change. But what exactly does it mean? Maybe our keynote speaker is going to be able to break it down for us as we speak about mindset change. In what particular angles are we looking at? And like Mr. Omwa did clearly say, it is not a government's effort alone, it is a collective effort. Each and every one of us gets to play a particular role. And I don't want to take any more time. I would like to invite our keynote speaker, who will be presenting on mindset change for this favorable population age structure, which is a prerequisite for wealth creation. When we talk about our population, I know most of us, our first thought goes to the huge youthful population that we have. That means dependency. Because if we have a huge number, more than 70% below the age of 18, and yet Uganda's age of consent is 18, it means we have a huge dependency burden in the country. How do we get to deal with that? Allow me invite Madam Gift Malunga from the United Nations Population Council to come and let us know what we need to pay attention to in this report, as we also await the UBOS gentlemen and ladies to tell us how many numbers we do have. Let's give her a round of applause.
The Director of Ceremonies, the guests of honor, represented by Honorable Jane Pachito, representing Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, the Honorable Minister of State, Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Rugolobi, Honorable Members of Parliament, the Chairperson of the National Population Council, Prof. Mangen, the Acting Director General, National Population Council, Mr. Omwa, senior government officials from central and local governments, development partners, UN colleagues, all partners in population and development, religious and cultural leaders, the media, all distinguished dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. UNFPA, the United Nations Population Fund, are really so pleased and honored to participate in this momentous occasion as we launch the 2023 State of the Uganda Population Report, the SUPRI, as it is affectionately known, under the theme that has already been elaborated. From the onset, let me share that my tour of duty as the UNFPA country representative started 15 days ago. And this occasion is an opportune moment for me to meet and engage with the country's esteemed leadership and the vibrant young people. I look forward to a fruitful engagement and pleasant stay in your beautiful country. I extend my sincere appreciation to the National Population Council and all partners involved in population and development programs for consistently producing evidence-based reports on Uganda's population dynamics. These reports provide invaluable insights and policy recommendations, enabling us to make informed decisions for the country's betterment. In 1994, the Republic of Uganda aligned itself to the Program of Action adopted at the International Conference on Population and Development, the ICPD, that was in Cairo in Egypt. And this landmark conference placed individual dignity and human rights at the core of development. Nearly 3 decades later, UNFPA reaffirms its commitment to leave no one behind as we align our efforts with the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, similarly, I'm heartened to note that the Republic of Uganda remains steadfast in its commitment to the ICPD agenda. And this is evidenced by the Addis Ababa Declaration on Population and Development review that was conducted in July 2023, and the findings of the 2022 Uganda Demographic and Health Survey. While significant progress has been made in several key indicators, the results also underscore the critical work that remains to achieve the ICPD program of action that Uganda has acceded to. There's been a remarkable reduction of 44% in maternal mortality from 336 per 100,000 live births in 2016 to 189 deaths per 100,000 live births in 2022. I think we need to give the country a round of applause. Honestly, I think this is very remarkable. But this significant decline over a 5-year period bears testimony to the country's unwavering commitment to advance maternal health as we strive for a future where no woman dies while giving life. The modern contraceptive prevalence rate has also increased from 18.2% in 2001 to 38% in 2022. Additionally, the total fertility rate has declined from 6.9 to 5.2 over the same period. UNFPA is mandated to strengthen national capacities to ensure that up-to-date data from population and housing censuses and surveys like the Uganda Demographic and Health Survey is of high quality in terms of the generation, the analysis, and dissemination. These data are critical for planning, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of the country's development programs, and especially the National Development Plan. So robust statistics are indispensable for tracking progress on the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals and harnessing the demographic dividend. The significant decline in maternal mortality translates into a high survival rate for both mothers and their children, effectively contributing to harnessing the demographic dividend and the boundless possibilities to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. It is therefore essential to recognize that for Uganda to fully reap the demographic dividend, there needs to be a commitment to investing in sexual and reproductive health and rights, a powerful accelerator of human progress that yields substantial returns for economies and societies. The demographic window debate should be centered around positioning and capitalizing on the country's youthful population to drive its socio-economic transformation. So Uganda's primary strategy for harnessing the demographic dividend revolves around ensuring that adolescents are healthy, they are properly educated, and are appropriately skilled to seize the employment opportunities that will arise as outlined in the National Development Plan. Youth skilling is a critical enabler which equips young people with skills and training essential for success in the workforce. So investing in vocational training, apprenticeships, and other educational programs that provide practical job skills to youth is very critical. Such training would benefit young girls who have prematurely dropped out of school and are transitioning into the working world. So UNFPA, in collaboration with ministries, departments, and agencies, UN agencies as well, non-governmental organizations, has implemented many programs aimed at empowering young people, including the recently launched UN Joint Program on Youth and Adolescents. This program aims to address teenage pregnancies, reduce the proportion of youth not in employment, education, and training, and assist youth who are not in school or employed to engage in productive endeavors, tapping into digital technology and innovations to transform their lives. This approach should be complemented by mindset change, a shift in attitudes, beliefs, and perceptions towards a better life as a key component in influencing social norms and practices that directly impact sexual and reproductive health and rights. UNFPA stands alongside the people of Uganda in their quest to assert their rights and make their own reproductive health choices. This is the only path to achieving the future we desire, a future that fosters equality and prosperity for all. We all deserve to breathe fresh air, have adequate land to live on, and consume nutritious food. However, this is impossible without planning for our growing population. Ladies and gentlemen, when the rights, dignity, and equal value of all individuals are truly respected and upheld, we unlock value and a future filled with hope and endless possibilities. Let us therefore be up diligently and tenaciously delivering and executing our various mandates for the common good of Uganda and humanity in general. Once again, I wish to place on record my appreciation for the kind reception and warm hospitality I've enjoyed so far. I thank you.
Once again, a big round of applause for Ms. Kate Gift Malunga from UNFPA, and to all our development partners, we want to say a big thank you to you for the support. Madam Kate Gift did particularly emphasize the aspect of sexual reproductive health and rights, well, because of the constituent of our population as well, quite a very, very young population, one of the youngest populations in the world as well, but very key and stand on youth skilling, because we've continuously for a long time complained about unemployment, but it also stems from the kind of education system that had previously only emphasized creating more job seekers than the job creators themselves. But when people are equipped with life skills, at least even after education, before you look for that quote-unquote white-collar job, you're able to start up something. And government has emphasized skilling and also providing startup capital and machinery for these youth who are skilled. At this point in time, we're going to have a particular assessment and keynote address on this mindset change that we are talking about and the theme for this year's State of Uganda Population Report. And thereafter, we'll have a few reactions before we get to our distinguished guests as well, who are seated at the front. And after that, that is how short our program is actually going to be. So without wasting any more time, allow me invite Mr. Andrew Mukulu, who is also a former director in charge of census at the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. Mr. Andrew Mukulu, the floor is yours. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes to speak to us. And we cannot wait to be able to react to your conversation.
Thank you, MC, for the opportunity to talk. Our guest of honor, Honorable Pachuto, representing the Speaker, the Minister of State for Planning, Honorable Amos Lugolobi, Chairperson, NPC, and fellow board members, representative of UNFPA and other development partners, fellow participants, ladies and gentlemen. I was requested to talk about this topic, mindset change for a favorable population age structure, a prerequisite for wealth creation. I must confess from the onset that when I looked at it, I saw three big words. One is mindset change, another one is population age structure, and the third one is wealth creation. And you'll agree with me that it will be very difficult for one to be an expert in all. So I'll concentrate where I have some knowledge. I don't want to give a textbook definition of what an age structure is, which is the area where I'm more confident. But basically, when you talk of age structure, we are talking of how the population of any area, maybe a country, is distributed between the different age groups. And we all know that almost everything that we do is centered around the variable of age. We have voting age, we have working age, we have school age, school-going age, retirement age. Everything, almost everything that we do has an aspect of age in it. So age is a very important socioeconomic variable, and possibly that's why it's being discussed here. But most important is that its structure has a big relationship with our ability to create wealth, to engage in employment, and create wealth. And I think it is the latter part that the organizers are more interested in. What is that age structure that can enable the country to create wealth and live a good quality of life as per the goal of the NDP 3. All of us, I'm sure we have heard that Uganda has a very young age structure. Whichever measure that you want to use, whether you want to use those below 15, below 30, those 18 to 30, we all know that Uganda has a very young age structure. And we know that the age structure of any population is driven by our past. Unfortunately, we cannot change it today because it is driven by what happened in the past. Basically, at what rate were we producing children, and at what rate were we dying? That is in the history, and we find ourselves where we are. So the age structure that we have today, we may be partly responsible for it, but it's more of our behavior in the past. Allow me talk a little bit about what has been happening in our behavior. In the past, I think for about 2 decades, we used to say Uganda has a very high fertility rate, high and constant fertility rate. Fortunately, we have now started seeing signs of it declining. We've seen it decline to the 5.2 that has been mentioned by the UNFPA representative. However, one of the things that I want to bring out is that as we are saying that the fertility is declining, we should bear in mind that this high or this declining fertility is actually desired fertility. We, the Ugandans, desire it to be that way, at least as of now. Because in 2016, I haven't gotten the latest figures, maybe the EDU boss can update. In 2016, when men were asked how many children they would want to have, on average, they wanted to have 5.3 children. And the women wanted to have 4.3. So the desire is high. As we are talking about reducing it, let's bear in mind that the desire is high, much as we do have some of it which is unwanted, but a lot of it is part of our desire. Of course, worth noting is the fact that teenage pregnancy in Uganda has stagnated for a while. It was 31% in 2001. Sorry, teenage parenthood, not teenage pregnancy. It was 31% in 2001. It came 25% and has refused to move away from there. Since 2006 to date, 1/4 of our teenagers have initiated the childbearing process. Either they've gotten the results or they are in the queue. We've done well regarding the reduction of mortality. Again, the representative has already mentioned the reduction in the maternal mortality, and even other indicators have shown a reduction. The life expectancy, when the last results from the population census were released, indicated that life expectancy was going up. And with further reductions, we expect that the life expectancy will go up, continue going up. And when you put all this together, what does it come to? The fertility is reducing, but not fast. The mortality is reducing, which by all standards is a good thing for the society. But when you put the two together, we are having our population growing fast and the age structure remaining young. So we may be blaming our parents for the current age structure, but our behavior is affecting the age structure of the near future. So soon, somebody will be blaming us, not blaming our parents. I think that sort of summarizes what we have about our age structure. Now, I want to look briefly at the population that we have, its quality and its characteristics, and we see whether it can help in wealth creation. And this is anchored on the fact that the NDP recognizes population as both an opportunity and a threat to development. The same goes with, it started with the Vision 2040, then the NDP 3, they all recognize that the population is an opportunity for development, but is equally a threat. And what population do we have? Maybe I should mention that, I should have mentioned under the age structure that about 58% of our population is in the working age group. That is 14 to 64 years. So when we are talking about wealth creation, this is a group that we are talking about. So what is the characteristics of how does this population look like? And basically, when we are looking at the quality of the population, we are looking at the level of skills. We are looking at, first of all, we start by looking at the health status of the population. Are they available to work? What education do they have? What skills do they have? And what can they do, therefore, with the skills that they have? And according to one of the most recent surveys done around 2000, sorry, not 2000, 2020, only 1 in 8 of the population in the working age group had completed secondary education or had other vocational training. Only 1 in 8. So the 7 in 8 either initiated education but not complete secondary, or they did not even initiate at all. We have those who did not initiate at all. So as we are talking about wealth creation, let's bear in mind that we are talking of a population with low levels of education generally. And even those who have gone to school, many of them know about prairies and chlorophyll, but nothing that they can convert into income generation. Only 17% had some vocational training, vocational tertiary training. And I try to look at why do we have so many persons with low levels of education? Again, the same study revealed that about 2/3 of the persons of working age, the reasons why they dropped out of school prematurely, they were attributing it to finance-related issues. Of course, whenever this is presented, the first question that everybody asks is, how about UPE? Maybe you both will help to explain to us why people say they don't have money for education when they have the UPE. But we also have about 10% who dropped out because of reasons which are basically attitude, meaning either the pupil was not interested, the parent was not interested, or they had to do some work at home. And of course, there's another portion that drops out for other reasons, including poor academic performance. They feel that school is not good enough. I don't know whether being out of school is better than being in not a good enough school, and the rest of it. So we have that. And of course, we also have the young ones who have not started school, the 6 to 12 years who have not started school. And the reason that is given for not starting school, about 2/3, are more of attitude. Either you want them at home, you feel that your child is too young to start school, you do not want the child to go to school, or the child is not willing. About 2/3 give that reason. They have not started, hopefully they will start, but they are already in what we classify as school-going age. So, that is the population that we have in the country. Going into what the population is doing in terms of economic activity, knowing very well that you can only generate wealth if you are engaging in an economic activity. We realize that almost 9 out of 10 of the persons of working age were actually working. But I just want to clarify that the labor statisticians differentiated work from employment. Working is producing goods and services either for your own consumption or for another person's consumption. So it could be for commercial purposes, or for income generation, or for subsistence purposes. And the 9 out of 10 are engaged in some activity of production of goods and services. What does that tell us? That we have a potential. That 9 out of 10 have indicated that they are willing to engage in something. Whether now they're engaging in it for generation of wealth or not, at least they've shown that they are willing to engage. However, when you look at that 9 out of 10, only half are engaged in what the labor statisticians call employment. That is producing goods and services for pay or profit. The other half are producing goods and services for subsistence production. So there is a potential. They are available. They have shown that they are available to produce, but they are not yet producing. The same studies tell us that there is a lot of underutilization of labor in the country. Underutilization of labor is, in simple terms, the mismatch between the supply of the labor available and the demand for it. Now, the studies are telling us that 2 out of 5 persons who are in employment are actually underutilized, meaning they are not working optimally. Guest of honor, I may be talking negatively, but I'll turn around at some moment to be positive. So I don't want to dampen the spirits of the house that I'm negative in everything that I'm saying. So we have a lot of labor underutilization. A study was done sometime in 2018 and showed that around this time, we are expecting around 900,000 persons to be joining the labor market. And when I try to look at the 900,000 persons, to me that is about half the population of Kampala city. They are joining the labor market this year. And remember, there was another state that came last year, and a bigger number is coming next year and thereafter. So as we are talking about job creation, let's bear in mind that we have this big number that is joining the labor market. I've already mentioned about the skills levels, and we know that the majority of the population do not have vocational or tertiary training. And of course, one of the things that we usually talk about when you're talking about employment and the population is the 41% of the youths who are neither in employment nor in education or training. So we have all these factors together in one basket called Uganda. I also try to look at the health status of the population of Uganda. I couldn't tease out just the working age population, but we know that about 19% of the population report having fallen sick in the month prior to when they were being studied. Some sickness, about 19%, 1 out of 5 reported that they had fallen sick. And the same study tells us that when they fall sick, they suffer with the sickness for an average of 5 days, and maybe they lose 3 working days because of the sickness. So you have this population that is in that state. And we also know that the general mobility in the country is high. So turning to the concept of the mindset change, which I'm not an expert at, I know that the PDM has a whole pillar on mindset change. And that pillar has several objectives that it would want to achieve through the mindset change. Of course, the pillar has other things like community mobilization and the rest of it. However, I just felt like highlighting a few areas where we need a mindset change. I know that to get out of the basket where we are, we need policy reforms and we need reforms in our minds. I will not handle the policy reforms because I'm sure there are many people who can handle this. Neither will I prescribe what to do under mindset change, but I just want to highlight the areas where we feel we could have a change. The sure way of getting a favorable age structure which can achieve the demographic dividend is by reducing fertility. So that is one area where I feel we should have a mindset change. And it's for that reason that I did mention that although the fertility is declining, but most of the fertility that we have, we actually desire it. So we need to work on our desire for the 5.3 children for the men and 4.3 children for the women. Use of family planning has been increasing. But when you look at the details of how it is distributed, most of the family planning is required for spacing, not for limiting. Meaning, these people are using family planning, but they want at a later date to come back into the field of play and get another child. So as we are talking about reduction of fertility, bear in mind that the family planning that you are seeing, part of it is temporary because they want to come back. So we need to convince the people that we need to reduce on that. Otherwise, the current demographics that we have are a sure deal of giving us a young age structure for a long time. The other area that is looked at under the theory of the demographic dividend is the education. I've already mentioned how many children are not starting school because of attitude reasons. Not funding, not access, but attitude. So we need to work on the attitude of parents who think their 6-year-old is too young to go to school. The parents who think their child should first do something at home before going to school. And also those who are dropping out. We need to work out why they are dropping out, despite the fact that systems have been put in place for them to be in school. Regarding our health, most of the sickness that we have is preventable. We need to work hard on preventing, on not falling sick because of preventable diseases. Malaria is still running high. I know, I think up to yesterday morning, I was hearing an announcement about mosquito nets being distributed. Now the question will be use, because as they are being distributed, you also hear cases of misuse. So we need to work towards avoiding the preventable diseases. And we also saw from some study that the non-communicable diseases, the prevalence is going up. It may be small, but it's going up. And of course, we all know the toll that these have on us. Then, the last point that I want to talk about, where we need to be looking at mind change, which has been alluded to by the acting DG, is the use of technology. We have a lot of technologies around, but some study that was done showed that 50% of the youths are using technology for social networking. They're not using technology for employment and wealth creation. So we need to tell them that social networking is good, but you can do more with that. I usually receive messages on my phone where I can ask about the prices of agricultural products. I've not asked myself, I must confess, but if everybody could tap into that, since somebody is giving it for free, I'm sure we'll be able to do much more with the technology available. Guest of honor, as I'm concluding, I want to say that Uganda has a very young population. We have all known this. And the trend has been because of our past. It is changing, but has not reached where we are. Our health-seeking behavior is improving, but not yet satisfactory. And we know that we have a working population that is not adequately educated or skilled to create wealth or to go into employment and create wealth. And therefore, the need for the mindset change of the individuals, in addition to other policy reforms that can make the economy a better employer for all of us. I thank you very much.
I think that may not be enough for Mr. Andrew Mkulu, because he broke it down much simpler, and I love that he talked about the issue of family planning. And I know many of us here are also on the road, which he said that we are just spaced. At a later stage, we are thinking about going back to what he called the game. Mr. Mkulu, I don't know which game you were talking about, but I totally agree with Mr. Mkulu on the aspect of disease, still having malaria, and he's talking about non-communicable diseases. And the fact that he mentioned non-communicable diseases, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask that we stand up for just 30 seconds. Because we've been seated since 2, it's coming to 4. Those are 2 hours of straight sitting, and that is where we get the diseases the president calls diseases of prosperity. Huh? because we can be able to, and I'm not just asking you to stand up for nothing. I'm asking you to stand up and we get to stretch a little bit. Stretch your back because it's been seated for a while. Stretch your neck. Your waist is very important because you know your back and your waist are very, very close. Your hands, yeah. And then we can be able to at least get seated. This should become a routine because sitting for long does not pay off for our body. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said earlier on, we're just going to have a few responses to this presentation also. And I am going to have from the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. I always call it the Ministry of Everyone because it literally encompasses the young, the old, the working, the non-working, male, female, all throughout. Allow me invite Miss Angela Nakafero, a Director of Gender, the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. Let's give her a round of applause. What do you think about the conversation and what we're talking about today?
Thank you very much, Mildred. Allow me, honorable ministers and the chief guest, to stand on the existing protocol. My name is Angela Nakafero. I'm serving as the Commissioner, Gender and Women Affairs, Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development. I would like to thank the keynote speaker for highlighting quite a number of issues. I would like to, first of all, appreciate the government of Uganda for prioritizing work around social norm change and human capital development. This is an area that has not been prioritized before, especially mindset change has been an area that has been missing in most of our development programs. We are grateful that this is becoming prioritized, and by the way, should be the first starting point for all our programs, ladies and gentlemen. I would also like to congratulate the National Population Council for the report and also prioritizing work around mindset change, reducing the population or promoting quality population, but also work around wealth creation, ladies and gentlemen. When we talk about mindset change, what really informs our minds? Mindsets. All of us in this room, I believe we know what informs our mindset are in most cases our social norms, values, and practices, which are acceptable in a given society. Quite often, we don't question. We take it, that is the truth. And in most cases, it's shaped by our cultural and religious values. So our work around mindset change is very, very important. And I would like to focus my discussion on a number of areas that the keynote speaker has identified. We talk about the high population growth rate, 3+% per annum. At what time are we stopping to question what are the values and practices that account to that annual growth rate, population growth rate? You'll find, ladies and gentlemen, that we have girls, by the way, children that are starting to bear babies at the age of 13. So by the time this girl makes it to 45, which years where we are thinking that probably she's starting to go into menopause, she has had quite a number of babies. And that alone defines why our fertility rate has persisted for over some time. We are in a social context where child marriage is a norm in some of our societies. We celebrate child marriage. So by the time these young girls really grow up, they've had a number of babies, and that alone contributes to the high fertility rate in our country. And behind those two practices is violence against women and girls. These girls are defiled at a tender age. These girls are forced into marriage at a tender age. At the same time, we celebrate polygamy, and of course we encourage men to have as many wives as possible, but that also contributes to the high fertility rate. Women are competing amongst themselves to have more numbers within a family. So if we are talking about reducing fertility rate in Uganda, we definitely have to deal with the issue of sexual violence, which unfortunately is increasing. The report by WUBOS indicated that sexual violence has increased from 16% in 2016 to 32% in 2021. So violence, as long as we have sexual violence increasing, that will also be reflected in the high level of fertility in this country. I would also like to talk about the population structure vis-a-vis wealth creation. You find that as the keynote speakers emphasized, most of Ugandans are below 15 or 18 years. So majority of us are depending on either one person who is producing, and that has a lot of implications for wealth creation. Expenditure is higher than income. And of course, where expenditure outgrows income, we are not able to make positive investments in terms of growing our economy. So if we are going to talk about wealth creation amongst families, amongst communities, we also need to check on the population structure such that our population growth is balanced within the economic growth. Honorable Minister, that means that as a country, we've got to work extremely hard in terms of increasing economic growth. Investments. Majority of us make investments that are not productive. We invest in cars, we invest in big houses, which are not generating income or adding an income to the families. So as a country, we also need to change our mindsets in the kind of investments that we make. We are not earning as much, but we also invest in we make non-productive investments. So that put together, ladies and gentlemen, we need to change our mindset in terms of reducing the fertility rate, in terms of savings and investments in productive sectors, such that the economic growth can improve over time. So as a country, where should we put a lot of emphasis? We need to have a mindsets that are pro-wealth creation. That is very, very important. We also need to look at the longer term of our national development. We thank the government of Uganda for the Vision 2040, as well as the programs that have been defined, where we also have a program on community mobilization and mindset change and human capital development. And of course, it means that we have to work hard in terms of ensuring that we realize our goals by adopting those that are pro-investments, ladies and gentlemen, and sustaining our investments. That requires, as the keynote speakers emphasized, we need to be innovative, we need to safeguard our natural resources, we need Uganda that is sustainable, so environmental protection is very, very important. On the other hand, we find ourselves in a challenging circumstance where majority of Ugandans are not empowered, are not treated as equal. And of course, I would like to focus my attention on the girls and women. Of course, the Constitution defines our rights, but because of the traditional norms, values and practices, most of the women are still discriminated. So if we are going to push for wealth creation, we cannot afford to leave more than half of the population behind. In terms of education, in terms of health services, in terms of investments, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of ensuring that women and girls can access opportunities for development, employment, and they're able to earn as much as men are earning, ladies and gentlemen. So a lot of work is expected from us in terms of promoting equity and gender responsive development at all levels. And that has to come right from our families, where we are treating women and girls, men and boys equally, ladies and gentlemen. Because if we did that, probably we'll be able to reduce on the teenage pregnancy and child marriages that are explaining why our fertility rate has remained high. I would like to conclude my discussion by emphasizing that as we talk about wealth creation in Uganda, we need to put at the center of our discussion the 4 P's. P1 is the people, both men and women, boys and girls, including other marginalized groups, where we talk about profits. So our investments must be able to make profits for us at all levels, where we are talking about the planet, in this case our country, Uganda, so that we can sustain our development and conserve the environment, at the same time where we talk about partnerships. Some of these cannot be achieved by one ministry. We all need to work together as all Ugandans, but all stakeholders in terms of pushing for national development and of course pushing for wealth creation. I thank you very much, Honorable Member and the Chief Guest and other guests for listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Angela Nakafero. And one particular thing, you can forget anything else, but talk about the pro-wealth creation mindset. That's where you get to ask yourselves, ourselves generally, do we have assets or liabilities? Just try to look at what you own. How much of those are assets? How much of those are liabilities? I think that is the pro-wealth creation mindset that we are talking about. But for sexual violence, it's very absurd and truthfully, yes, on the rise. And when we talk about sexual violence, there is also the domestic violence, which is on the rise. Some of the men are quiet, but they're suffering, only that they can't speak out because of the mindset that we've created. How does a man come and say, my wife beat me? And yet at the end of the day, it is actually happening and affecting society at the end of the day. So I don't want to take any more time. Allow me invite Dr. John Sebuliba Sekamate to as well just give a word or two about what you think about our conversation and our earlier on keynote address. Just a few minutes before we get to our next conversation right at the high table here. Let's give a round of applause to Dr. John Sebuliba. Yes, we're like guides, you be prepared all the time.
Thank you very much, MC. Honorable guest of honor and honorable minister, like Angela did, I also beg that I build on the already established protocol. I will not take much of your time because many of the pertinent issues have been highlighted. I would like to thank my colleague, Mr. Andrew Mukulu, for the very good and informative and interesting keynote address. and also and to thank Angela for that, very informative response. I want to just highlight one point which actually underlies or cuts across what Andrew emphasized and what Angela also talked about. We are talking about, when we talk about when we talk about age structure and decline in fertility, we are talking about the level of fertility. And as Andrew very correctly pointed out, that a lot of this fertility is desired. So the desire for number of children is still very high. Now, another factor that comes out from the UBOS data are what you call the age pattern of fertility. How is this fertility distributed along the age structure? We know that fertility takes place, well, first of all, of course, it's only the women that are, oh boy, how do I put this? When we measure fertility, we focus it only on the women, although we recognize that men play an important part. So when I talk about age pattern of fertility, I'm talking about the age pattern of the women population. So when you look at this age pattern of fertility, that is the age at which women have their babies, you see that it starts early. That's one distinguishing feature of Uganda's fertility. Very early childbirth. So when you go to the teenage bracket of the population, of the female population, you'll find that already over almost 15%, they're already having children. Not only that, they continue having children for a long time. So it is what we call, the demographers among you in the population, in the audience, will recognize what we call a broad peak. So it's not that it just peaks like this and then goes off, but it goes up and stays there. And then we have a late tapering of the fertility. So if we thought that the high fertility we're experiencing was problematic, now I will make your life even more difficult by telling you that we have to address the age pattern of fertility. And that is a huge mindset issue. That when you talk about children, girls being in school, boys being in school, one of the leading benefits of this is making these girls unavailable for childbearing. Now, unless we can achieve that, which is a huge mindset issue, we shall not change that age pattern of fertility, because it is a choice between two. Either you engage in childbearing or you engage in school. You don't have both. You don't have both at the same time. So, if we are to do something about the very high fertility that we are experiencing, which has led to all those inconveniences that have been talked about, then we have to address the age pattern of fertility. That let's the fertility start a little later, but let it not persist for a long time to have this broad peak, because in conclusion, Honorable Guest of Honor, what I'm saying is that, we shall always need the child population, because this is a natural population and it has to replenish the working age population. But when this age structure must be able to allow both the boy and the female population, or the girl population, a chance to have an education, as Andrew said, to prepare skills and also develop a career. So we must have childbearing start later than 20 years, preferably later than 24 years. Then in that career, women must have a chance to perform in their careers, building a career. So which means while they may participate in childbearing, they need to have a chance to have a child, but then come back and build their careers. So which means that we need to push for a narrow peak, and then it has to taper off early, not going into their 40s, this childbearing, so that the women have a chance of resting, which will of course improve their quality of life, but also to excel in their professional careers so that they become consultants, so that they can, and so on. So that way, Honorable Guest of Honor, we shall have an age structure that really is conducive for wealth creation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Soliba. I think I don't even have to repeat one, but when you talk about childbearing, and earlier on someone talked about family planning, there's also a mindset issue right there. Because amongst the families, there has to be consent of the husband. And in most of the times, we still have a totally different mindset about family planning with all the myths around it. So that mindset translated from the female to the male becomes even harder. But I love when you talk about, the delayed childbearing, but also you mentioned a very important aspect, the fear for many women, especially career women, quote unquote, the fear of, will I be able to get back my job after I return from that maternity leave? There have been tales of so many women who return to no job after that. So the fear remains there, and yet they would want to probably have the children at a much later stage. I think we're getting into a very diverse conversation and an interesting one, and I would like for us to add more to that conversation by inviting Professor Fred Wawire Mangeni, who is the chairperson of the National Population Council. Let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. I wish you had been one of the discussants, because your understanding of the topic really comes right from the household level, which is good, which is what we want. Our guest of honor, Honorable View Jane Pachuto, Women Member of Parliament for Pakwach, and also Deputy Chair, Committee of Finance, Planning and Economic Development in the Parliament of Uganda, here representing the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament of the Republic of Uganda, the Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Planning and Economic Development in charge of planning, Honorable Amos Rugorobi, Honorable members of Parliament here present, Your Excellencies, the ambassadors and high commissioners. Oh, you can't hear me? Oh, okay, sorry about that. Your Excellencies, the ambassadors and high commissioners, the Acting Director General, National Population Council, the UNFPA Country Representative, Ms. Gift Malunga, development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I opted not to ride on the protocol established before me because I really wanted to bring out some of the dignitaries who are gracing this occasion. And in that same vein, I think it is in order that I introduce members of the National Population Council, as one of the directors of ceremonies had requested me to do. I am the chair of the council. Professor Florence Mirembe is vice chair. Mr. Fabian Byomuhangi, who is seated there, is a member. Dr. Rogers Mate, member. Dr. Ms. Jill Barungi, member. Mr. Bashir Rukungu, member. Dr. Abdu Busulwa, member. Ms. Helen Mviri Namirembe, member. Mr. Joseph Enyimu, member. Dr. Joseph Okware, member. Brigadier Johnson Nwamanya, member. And the Right Reverend Dr. Alex Kagume, who is also a member. I wish to warmly welcome our guest of honor, Honorable Aviu Jane Pachuto, who is representing the Speaker of the Parliament of Uganda, and all other distinguished guests that have only attempted to highlight a few of them to this important launch of the 2023 State of Uganda Population Report. Each year, the National Population Council produces and disseminates the State of Uganda Population Report, what we commonly call SUPRI, to analyze demographic developments, trends, and patterns in Uganda. The National Population Council utilizes the evidence generated from the report to derive policy recommendations for improving the quality of life of the people of Uganda. The report is intended for policymakers, development partners, researchers, and civil servants. I have a bit of echo here, I don't know why. I encourage you all to read this year's report that has been themed Mindset Change for a Favorable Population Age Structure, a prerequisite for wealth creation. And I encourage especially the policymakers to implement the policy recommendations therein for the betterment of our country. At this point, I would like to really thank the keynote speaker for detailing that theme, that keynote presentation on the theme, Mindset Change for a Favorable Population Age Structure, a prerequisite for wealth creation, is really a very important one, and it is appropriate for the SUPRI 2023. Our chief guest, today there is great diversity in the age structures of populations, not only in Uganda, but all over the world. Rapid change is taking place nearly everywhere. In most countries of Asia and Latin America, the proportion of children has been falling, and the proportion in the working ages has been rising, thus producing demographic conditions favorable for economic growth, what we call a demographic dividend. Developed countries already have relatively old populations and are coming to the end of the dividend period of rising proportions in the working ages. In contrast, Uganda, like many African countries, still has a rapidly growing population with a high proportion of dependent children. And we have had this and how age comes in, and the fact that we have many children that we really need to plan for and care for. This has implications for the pace of economic growth, provision of services, and socio-economic transformation if strategic planning is not aligned to the needs of the growing population. That is why a typical report like the SUPRI is very important to provide such insights. Our guest of honor, the National Population Council, in its population advocacy, continues to underscore the significance of our population as the greatest resource of our country. With a population of over 46 million people, of whom 75% are below the age of 30 years, Uganda has a very young population. This presents both opportunities and challenges. There is therefore need to empower our youthful population by defining and developing the right socio-economic environment. The right environment ranges from access to education, skilling, healthcare, employment opportunities driven by innovative entrepreneurial ideas. Those entrusted with policy making must create the space for inclusion and empowerment of youth in the development agenda. I would like guests of honor to appreciate government for promoting appropriate skills development and innovation among young people. We encourage parents to prioritize vocational and technical education to provide young people with alternatives to early marriage and transform Uganda's youthful population into a competitive advantage for development. We at the National Population Council pledge to continue supporting government's development efforts, and we are confident that together we shall transform the quality of life and standard of living of Ugandans. I wish to once again take this opportunity to appreciate you, our guest of honor, and also to appreciate the Right Honorable Anita Among, Speaker of the Parliament of Uganda, for all the support that we receive from the government of Uganda, and also for gracing this occasion. We channel our support through our line minister, Mr. Amos Lugolobi, Minister of State for Finance, Planning and Economic Development in charge of planning, who has really been very supportive of the National Population Council and who takes credit for some of the achievements that we have made. I wish to also thank the United Nations Population Fund and other development partners for supporting the population program. I thank you for your attention.
A bigger round of applause to our chairperson of the National Population Council. Don't get tired quickly because we still have one day to end the week, but also we have just a few more items to be able to close off our conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me invite Minister of State for Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Wherever you feel comfortable, whether you want to address it from there or you want to stretch out and come to this side, Honorable Amos Lugolobi, please, let's welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you so much, Mildred. Our guest of honor, Honorable Jane Pachuto, representing the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, honorable members of Parliament, the chairperson and members of the National Population Council, the Acting Director General, National Population Council, the UNFPA country representative, religious and cultural leaders present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to join the previous speakers in welcoming our chief guest, representing the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament of Uganda, Madame Jane Pachuto, and all the other invited guests to the launch of the 2023 State of Uganda Population Report, which has been developed under the theme mindset change for a favorable population age structure, a prerequisite for wealth creation. You are most welcome, all of you. I also want to welcome and applaud all our guests that have turned up to participate in this launch of the 2023 State of Uganda Population Report. Our guest of honor, I wish to underscore the government's recognition of the importance of mindset in shaping individual actions and societal outcomes in order to improve the quality of life of our people. When you have a negative mindset, the results are very clear. We therefore need to have a positive mindset if we are going to grow this country. Our guest of honor, I wish to begin my remarks by giving you a snapshot of a few of our development indicators, which have already been talked about. Number one is the Uganda's total fertility rate, which has been presented at 5.2 children per woman. And it has been noted by the various presenters here that that is still very high and has been moving very slowly. And that's what is disturbing. As we speak now, our GDP growth rate this year is expected at 5.2%. Now, where you have a population growing at 3.2%, with this high level of fertility rate, most of the GDP growth rate is being consumed by this high growth rate in the population. The import of that is that we, the existing population, are probably, our conditions are not being enhanced well enough. So the indicators I'm talking about here, or that have been discussed so far, have direct relationships amongst them, a direct correlation amongst them. Each year when we read the budget, we are talking about borrowing. And you realize that our debt burden has been growing. Now, if we maintain the growth momentum in the population as we're experiencing it today, it means that we are not able to resolve that debt burden because the dependency ratio in the population is also increasing. So we experience higher levels of consumption in the effort to try and invest in a population that is highly youthful, but not yet, very productive, but rather more dependent than being productive. So our task, yes, we have to invest in the population. But when we have the numbers in terms of population growth growing at an astronomical rate, we have a very big problem on the part of the growth rate. And that's why you realize that our per capita income has been generally stagnant, because this little GDP, or the gross national income, which we continue to have, when you divide that income with a population that is ever on the increase, the per capita income generally remains low. And our efforts to attain a middle income country, become a little elusive. And that can only exacerbate the problem of poverty in the country. So It's therefore very important to interpret the implications of these indicators to see what are they causing to the rest of our national economy, to our incomes as a population, to our well-being, general well-being. So those relationships are very important to clearly come out. I talked about the total fertility rate, which is stagnating at 5.2. And for heaven's sake, I don't know why this has remained so stagnant with the level of literacy that we are experiencing in the country today. Before, people were so worried about the death rate, the mortality rate, the death of the young population, I mean our young people. Those days there was no immunization. Now we are almost attaining full immunization for the population. So there's nothing to really worry about, that I have to produce 7 kids. Just in case 2 die or 3 die, then at least I have some 4 remaining alive. That was the thinking behind these large numbers in the past. And we thought that by immunizing the population and investing more in the population, this fertility rate would go down. And it is slowly moving down. So we need to continue working very hard with our partners to ensure that we try to address this problem. The issue of contraceptives, the unmet needs in the provision of these reproductive health services becomes a very important issue. How do we make people aware of these available services in the area of reproductive health? I think awareness is a problem. The population in Kampala, the elites are probably aware. But how about those ordinary people in the villages? Are they really aware about all these issues? So the contraceptive prevalence rate of 43% is therefore still very low. The population below the poverty line has also stagnated around 20.3% for the reason that I've been talking about. There are also indicators where we require much more effort, like the unemployment rate, which is at 9%. But of course, that depends on how we define unemployment. For many people, they would argue that the unemployment rate is probably over 80%, depending on the quality of work that they are doing. So this problem of unemployment continues to be persistent, and we really have to harness the resources that we have very effectively to create jobs for our people. Full immunization, still at 54%. I think we need to continue immunizing the population. The teenage pregnancy rate, a very disturbing indicator, at 24%, and has persistently stagnated at that level. We don't want to see these teenagers getting pregnant. So it's a big problem. There are a series of interventions. All these things that, the indicators that we have here, is the work of the National Population Council to raise the level of advocacy and to ensure that they are incorporated, the issues, the emerging issues, are properly incorporated in the National Development Plan. Fortunately, all these key institutions come under my portfolio and within the Ministry of Finance. So you have the Bureau of Statistics generating the statistics to give us the status quo about the population and other indicators. And then you have the Population Council to identify the emerging issues and do advocacy. And then the National Planning Authority that is responsible for ensuring that they provide the necessary plans to address these challenges. But where we are facing a very serious problem is in the area of financing the interventions, which is now the Ministry of Finance and all of us. And we are facing a very serious problem because when you have a bigger debt burden and you have a population whose productivity is so low, given the demographic indicators that we have been discussing, then you have a problem of raising the resources to provide the necessary interventions. And your capacity to borrow, of course, is constrained by the debt burden. So we are lucky that all these institutions are within the portfolio of the Ministry of Finance, and we are called upon to work harder together to ensure that we address these challenges. So the above mentioned indicators require more targeted and strategic investments in order to change this status quo. They also necessitate a blend of behavioral change and appreciation of the implications amongst our population in order to realize the desired socio-economic transformation. The population really needs to appreciate the implications of all these indicators. Madam Chief Guest, as you are aware, economic growth is much more than a reflection of mere numbers and percentage points. There are livelihood implications behind the figures, and we must appreciate the evidence that they present in order to facilitate appropriate planning. This report we are launching today presents some of those figures with the policy implication and recommendations. I think this report is a must read. We must all read this report. It's a very useful report. It provides very useful guidance for all of us. Therefore, in view of this year's theme, I wish to make some proposals for the consideration of us, the policymakers and stakeholders. Number one, we must sensitize families to make informed decisions about the number and timing of their children. Each one of us, including the religious leaders, Pastor Serwada, we beg that you sensitize the population about the number and the timing of their children. This is called family planning. It goes beyond mere family size, but reflects on timing, spacing, and very important, ability to cater for the family. You don't produce just for the sake of producing, but the capacity to look after that family becomes very critical. Number two, we have to ensure that young people get quality education and training. We need to focus on matching education, skills, and the needs of the labor markets. I therefore encourage parents and young people to prioritize technical and vocational education. And number three, that social protection programs should be amplified to help end poverty and fight persistent inequalities. I pledge the commitment of the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to support the realization of our development agenda and improve livelihoods. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to once again take this opportunity to appreciate our chief guest, the Right Honorable Anita Among, who sent Honorable Pachuto to represent her, and with the Speaker of Parliament of Uganda for officiating at this very important occasion. We want to thank you so much for coming. I wish to also thank our development partners, particularly the UNFPA and the entire UN family, for supporting government's development initiatives. Lastly, I would like to convey my appreciation to the board and management and staff of the National Population Council for producing this year's State of Uganda Population Report. Thank you so much for God and my country.
Thank you very much, Honorable Amos Lugolobi. Another big round of applause for him. I think you ended off on a very good note, especially speaking about social protection, because that also puts in context of the other older population. And I know that the social assistance grant for economic empowerment for the older persons is also doing some wonders, as we also look at the much older population. The children that are being given birth to, a portion of them is sent to the other side, the older, the grandmoms. Give birth to your children, drop them at mom, continue with your work. That is what some of the young people have done. But what more can we also be able to do for that section of the population that is no longer in the working age group, but they need to be sustained at the end of the day? We won't discuss about issues of fertility because I think that has taken a greater percentage of our conversation, but it takes all of us to be able to deal with this. It takes definitely everyone. Every time we talk about teenage pregnancy, my biggest question is, who impregnated this teenager and where is he? Are they still, going ahead around the community to impregnate more younger people? That is the biggest question that we always ask. Yes, we are talking about teenagers being impregnated by who? And in most cases, unfortunately, it's not by fellow teens. Yes, to a particular extent, it's fellow teenagers, but unfortunately, sometimes it's by people who are supposed to protect them, guardians, uncles. Sometimes the extent of unfortunate is some of them are their own parents, people who are basically supposed to protect them. Because look at it. When we were in the COVID-19 period and, the country was shut down just like the world was, the option that we thought everyone was safe at was their homes, right? But that is the point where we had the most teenage pregnancies, when we expected that these children are supposed to be at home, where they have their parents or guardians, where they're supposed to be protected. But that is when they got impregnated the most. Yes, some people will say they were roaming around the villages, but who is that person in the village who is not responsible enough to be able to protect this young child? But you also talked about advocacy, Honorable Lugolobi, which is very, very key, that we continue to have discussions about this, and my colleagues in the media play a very important role as well. It's one thing for government programs to be in place or for some of these things to be happening in the society, but if they're not highlighted to get the attention that they deserve, then unfortunately, sometimes they may remain unwitnessed, unseen, or even unheard. And that is why the National Population Council thought it prudent to thank some of the media fellows who have done a great part in raising awareness on some of these issues. It's a very small token of appreciation because sometimes work may go unnoticed. Before we get to have our guest of honor speak to us, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite Mark. It took a thorough criteria for judging who should be able to win which particular award, what award was being taken by who. But let's welcome Mark with a round of applause to let us in on the judging, the criteria, and finally announce to us who the winners of this year's, population reporting are.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony, our guest of honor, all protocol observed. We were a team of 5 judges, and the panel was gender sensitive. 3 ladies and 2 gentlemen. It had the practitioners and the lecturers. The panel consisted of Diana Kagere, who is a communication specialist. I don't know if they're here. It had Marion Alima, who is a lecturer at Makerere University. It had Sarah Namusoga, who is also a lecturer at Makerere University, and had Wilson Akiki, also a lecturer at Makerere University. I think they're not here. And myself, Mark Walungama, Uganda Catholic TV General Manager. Let me first, before going to the awards, to talk about the things that the judges observed this year. There were four main categories: online, print, radio, television, and they had indicated in the advert that we should have an Achievers Award. Unfortunately, none of the submissions were submitted under the category of Achievers Award. So the council decided to have the fifth position go to Journalist of the Year, the best among who were assessed. So the issues we had with online is where somebody goes on the internet and he has to read something. But most of the presentations we judged did not have the online feature, which is a link. Like today, I know most journalists are going to go back after the launch of this report. They will look at the report, write. Only take pictures that they've taken here, put them in the paper, but somebody out there needs to have a link to the actual report. When you're referring to something, technology now allows us, everything is digitized. So most of the online presentations lacked that. For the print, we observed that the gatekeepers, who are the sub-editors or the editors, need to guide the reporters to link the issues of population with their various stories. There are many stories, you read them through, but to get the link to the population issues was lacking. For radio, it's purely a production issue. Lack of sound effects, ambient sound is poor, stable sound, the sound levels were always alternating. So that was another issue for radio. And in television, the lack of use of ambient sound, the journalists know it. Yeah, like here, the fan is on. Let us hear the fan going on. And our journalism has tended to go the American way. The reporters, through the stand-ups they do, and the pictures don't tell the story. Yet the videos should tell the story, not you, the reporter. So those are the observations. I'm going now to proceed to announcements. Maybe one more announcement to make. I've been informed that the Journalist of the Year will have a cash prize of 2 million, but it will be sent to your account. It's not here, so those who are waiting outside, don't bother. And the rest of the winners will get 1 million. So let me proceed to the awards. For print, maybe guest of honor, I think they want you to present the awards. Where are the awards? For print, that's newspapers, magazines, and everything. Prosi Nandutu from New Vision. I would have loved if they could, next time around, they should be able to show the article, project it here so that you can see the article that won, but that's not possible today. Online, the best online was David Okema of the Daily Express. Television was Henry Mugenyi of NBS TV. Television was Henry Mugenyi of NBS TV. I think he is represented, I think. Okay. And lastly, the Journalist of the Year, the best among, what, one more? Oh, sorry. Radio. Amaiko Martin from Radio Simba. And finally, the overall winner and journalist of the year on reporting about population issues is Jackie Achan from the New Vision. Chief guests have been told you need to take a good photograph with all the categories of the winners. And I think Atwaise, that's my part. Thank you. Can you please take over?
Thank you very much, Mark. Let's give a round of applause to Mr. Mark Walungama. And thank you. I know it was thorough, and we are learning from those ideas and issues that you did raise. Let's have all our winners come through and be a part of this. This is historic. I think it would be prudent for Mark, as the representing judge, to also come and join this picture. This is historic, and of course, it's encouraging as well for more and more journalists to continue covering population issues. I love when Mark talks about the linkage of the population agenda to the stories that are being covered. Sometimes we never make that linkage, and yet it does exist as much in there. And to all the participants and all the winners, thank you so much for taking this home. Let's give them a rather round of applause. And we hope that you continue reporting as much about population issues and how they affect development and wealth creation.
Yeah, you need to be stable yourself.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to a close of our program. Like I said, I don't want to keep you very long. It's just a Thursday, and we want to let you get home as early as possible. So allow me take the honors to invite the State Minister, please, to come and invite our chief guest, who is representing the Speaker of the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda, to give us her address before we get to officially close off our ceremony. Thank you very much.
Let me once again stand on the existing protocol to invite Honorable Jane Pachuto, representing the Speaker of Parliament of Uganda, to address you on the launch of the 2023 State of Uganda Population Report. Madam Pachuto, you are most welcome.
Thank you very much. Before I deliver the address of the Speaker, whom I represent this evening, allow me to first of all congratulate the Minister and the National Population Council and the other stakeholders for this high-level engagement today. My name, as you have already heard, I'm called Avur Jane Pachuto. I represent the women of Pakwach District, and I'm also the Deputy Chair on the Committee of Finance, Planning, and Economic Development. Just a few years back, the Honorable Minister, Honorable Amos Lugolobi, was my chairperson in the Committee of Budget. And when I was called yesterday by the Speaker to come and represent her on this auspicious occasion, I realized that my former boss, Honorable Amos Lugolobi, is the Minister of State for Planning, and I felt a little bit uncomfortable coming to be the guest of honor. But he reassured me this afternoon that leadership is from God, and you never know. So, Honorable Lugolobi, I am here to represent the Speaker, and I know your support is very much so as I do that. With that said, let me deliver the speech of the Right Honorable Speaker, who has delegated me to carry out this noble duty. The Honorable Minister, Honorable Amos Lugolobi, the Minister of State for Planning, Honorable Members of Parliament present here, Your Excellency, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, the Chairperson and members of the National Population Council, the Acting Director General, the Acting Director General National Population Council, the UNFPA country representative, Madam Gift, the religious and cultural leaders, development partners, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am happy to officiate at the launch of this year's State of Uganda Population Report. This report presents us with a unique opportunity to annually reflect on population development milestones, facilitates an evaluation of the progress made towards improving the quality of life and standard of living of our people and the challenges that remain to be addressed. The theme of this year, Mindset Change for a Favorable Population Age Structure, a prerequisite for wealth creation, is quite timely as we reflect on how to create amongst our people and improve their livelihoods with the ultimate goal of achieving the country's Vision 2040 goal. This theme is even more suitable in the context of supporting our population to develop a positive mindset that will not only shape the way they perceive the world, but also influence actions they take. This is very important. This is very important. A positive mindset means that one has a positive expectation and a positive attitude towards solving problems and innovating solutions. With the right mindset, we can achieve greatness and overcome any obstacle that comes our way. However, many of our people have a fixed mindset, believing that their abilities and talents are predetermined. That limits their potential, making it hard for them to work and get out of poverty. So, if we are to realize our development targets and achieve Vision 2040, we need to change the mindset of our people. Ladies and gentlemen, results of the latest Uganda Demographic Health Survey indicate a marked improvement in many livelihood indicators. For instance, Uganda has reduced childhood and maternal mortality by integrating population factors such as fertility, mortality, and migration in the development planning. Infant mortality dropped from 102 of 1,000 live births in 1991 to 3,000 of 1,000 live births in 2022, representing a 70% drop. Maternal mortality declined from 506 out of the 100,000 women in 1988 to only 189 out of the 100,000 women in 2022, representing a 63% decline. Fertility declined from 7.1 children per woman in 1988 to 5.2 children per woman in 2022, representing a decline of 26.7%. Consequently, life expectancy at birth has increased from 43 years in 1991 to 63 years in 2014. This is a marked improvement. There are, however, indicators that have not shown any remarkable progress. These include teenage pregnancy rate, which has remained persistently high at 24%, contributing to a high population growth rate of 3% and a high maternal mortality at 189 of 100,000 women. There are many teenagers that die while giving birth. This is unacceptable. The population growth rate is undesirable because it places undue pressure on the economy, which needs to be growing at 3 times as much if we are to benefit from the growing population. So there is a bit of work to do here. According to an assessment by the National Population Council, the biggest concern in the population domain is a general lack of awareness and sensitization among citizens and key decision makers on population and development issues. Ladies and gentlemen, Uganda's population problem over the years has not been its size, but the rate at which it grows. That is 3% per annum. That has created a more 50% child dependency level and doubling every 20 years. To benefit from Uganda's current population age structure, which is made up predominantly of youth, we need to strategically invest in health, education, job creation, and good governance. This is what will enable us the demographic dividend. This should also be coupled with family planning to enable couples that have a number of children to have the number of children they can comfortably provide for. The government has invested in health, education, skilling, and job creation to accelerate socioeconomic transformation. Uganda has aligned its wealth creation strategies with the Sustainable Development Goals, and wealth creation strategies have been mainstreamed through Vision 2040. The National Development Plan. Many wealth creation programs have been put in place by the government, and these include Social Assistance Grant for Empowerment, SAGE, Operation Wealth Creation, EMYOGA, Uganda Women Entrepreneurship Program, WEP, Uganda Youth Livelihood Program, the YLP, and the Parish Development Model. Distinguished guests, as earlier mentioned, there has been marked improvement in the well-being of our people. In addition to the improvements already mentioned, the following are worth noting. 1, Ugandans are healthier and living longer. Life expectancy in Uganda has increased by 20 years in one generation, from 43 years in 1991 to 63.7 years in 2022. 2, as a result of increased immunization against the killer diseases and other government programs, fewer children are now dying. Infant mortality has reduced from 122 deaths per 1,000 live births in 1991 to 36 deaths per 1,000 live births in 2022. And as the minister noted, the proportion of the population living in poverty has reduced from 56% in 1992 to 20.3% in 2022. I am happy that behind these numbers are improvements in people's livelihoods and the living conditions of millions of households across the country. However, there is still work to do. To support these efforts, I pledge Parliament support, adequate implementation, oversight, and resource allocations towards population development initiatives. I call upon respective government MDAs, civil society, development partners, and the private sector to support government efforts towards wealth creation. Ladies and gentlemen, on this occasion, I wish to thank all the participants here today and our development partners, most notably the the United Nations Population Fund for consistently supporting Uganda's population development efforts. I also wish to appreciate the National Population Council for the advocacy and behavioral change communication for the population development. I wish to recognize the Council and partners for the work done in producing the State of Uganda Population Report and for organizing this event. Thank you for God and my country. It's now my pleasure to launch. I think that is done at another stage. I think so, yeah.
I'm kindly going to request Eric, Mr. Msana, to kindly let us get to the other side to officially launch this State of Uganda Population Report. And I'll request the technical team to get me a handheld mic that our guest of honor could be able to utilize in performing this duty. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to be witnessing at this point in time is the official launch of the State of Uganda Population Report 2023, themed under Mindset Change. I'm requesting the National Population Council, the members of the committee, the board, to kindly get closer because this is yours. And all the directors at National Population Council, please, I am requesting that you get closer. I am going to request the Deputy Executive Director of UBOS, because I know with matters statistics, there is no way this report was released without any input from UBOS, because this is your area. I know that UNFPA was clear, key, Netherlands was clear and key, but I'm kindly requesting that you represent the statistics body to be able to officially have this report launched by our guest of honor, of course representing the Speaker, Honorable Avur Jane Pachuto, who is the Deputy Chair of the Finance Committee. And I also continue to reiterate that leadership comes from God, and that is the reason why you are here today. Thank you very much to all the teams that made this come to pass. UNFPA, a special thank you to you, the National Population Council, the Netherlands Embassy, thank you so much for ensuring that this day comes to pass. And I would like to ask all of us, we have information on the table. There is a QR code that you can be able to scan. If you don't have it on the table, we'll make that available to you so you can be able to scan it and get a copy of the report. We have digitized this. So we're actually going to count down, and immediately after that, we will have Honorable Jane Pachuto Avur officially launching this. So I'll leave this to the technical team, and immediately after that, Honorable Jane Pachuto will be taking the honors to unveil this officially. All right. And the countdown is on. The drum roll. With technology, you have to be patient. I know we are waiting to see what that looks like, but our technical team will take us through the countdown. And please don't sing happy birthday, because sometimes we forget and we easily sing songs anyhow and put them wherever they are supposed to be. That is how on cake cutting, I attended a wedding, and at cake cutting, someone sang happy birthday, and I asked myself what the problem was. Okay, we're going to have Honorable Jen, please take the honors to officially have that launched. A round of applause, a big round of applause, all right. Honorable Jen, the floor is yours. I hope you have the microphone if you want to say something.
I now take the pleasure to officially launch the State of Uganda Population Report 2023.
Officially now, you can be able to disseminate this report. You can be able to get it. Our QR code is open for us to scan. And I would like us to take those very people who are right there. I'd like us to take a group photo. If we could just come back and take a group photo. And I am going to request Pastor Serada to kindly join to represent the religious leaders, because they also play a very important role and a very important sector of the demography that we are looking at. So we'll take a group photo, and I request that all of us get a copy so we can be able to show it off. I am going to request the paparazzis, do you want them to stay there, or they can draw closer to the podium? So because of the numbers, you can have a few of them up. To all the members of the National Population Council, please, there is no way you're missing this. So we can have them closer here. The members of the National Population Council could draw a little bit up to the podium as we take this picture. To all the NPC staff, National Population Council, there is no way you're staying behind. So please, to all the staff of the National Population Council, and it's very easy for me to identify all of you. I could start by mentioning name by name. Let's have those reports come through. Let's also have you come, and let's take this momentous picture right here. Some can be right behind. I normally say those who are more down to earth, like myself, I only enhance my height with heels. So if you're as down to earth as me, you get to the front. If you were created when God had a lot of quantity with regard to height given, then we can see you on the sides. But make sure you're not in the crop zone. Yeah, make sure you're not in the crop zone, especially those who are down to earth. Make sure you're strategically located where we can see you. Even when we're trying to edit the picture, we can't miss you. Okay, let's all have our reports. Yes, the staff of the National Population Council, thank you. I know it's tireless work organizing this. It's very tiresome to organize such an event. To our paparazzi, make sure that no one is in the crop zone. You can ask them to get to the back. Maybe our technical team would help move the staircase here to the side. I don't know if that's possible, because it seems to be creating a bit of space in there. So I'm going to kindly request that our technical team is going to move the stair, and so we can get enough space much better to take better pictures. So to my colleagues in the media, let's just wait a little bit. Let's move this podium. Mr. Msana, if you could move just a little bit. That's okay? Okay, perfectly fine. So the smiles, all those smiles, because yeah, we are about to achieve what we are I said if you're down to earth like myself, make sure you're strategically located so you can be seen in that picture. Very much so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, to every one of us as well, I want to say thank you so much for coming through. The authors of this report, please, the authors of the report are going to take the picture with our team, our high table team. Honorable Ugolobi and Honorable Pachuto, please. The authors are coming to make sure they take this picture. And to our members of parliament, to our members of parliament, yes, I'm kindly requesting you represent that constituency. And Mr. Mark Walungama, there is no way we are having the authors take this picture and you remain seated, yes. So let's have the authors take a picture with our high table team, and the rest of it is going to be refreshments, and we can, since the authors are relatively fewer, we can take the picture from right above here. Authors of the report with our members of parliament, and then we will also have Mr. Mark Walungama. Mr. Mark, you're the guest of honor with regard to the judging entirely, and so you will be a part of this picture. So let's have our authors take a picture with our minister, State Minister, Honorable Amos Lugolobi, to our speaker of this evening, Honorable Avur Jen. We are sorry for destabilizing you every now and then, but pictures tell a lot of stories. Remember, Mr. Mark Walungama was talking about some of these stories, the pictures not speaking to the stories or not telling the stories. So it's very, very important. Mark, I don't know why you're deciding to hide behind. Okay. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for honoring our invite, for sparing time of your Thursday afternoon to come and be with us. I know we've talked about a lot of statistics and percentages, some of them being very negative. I hope this is a basis for the other discussions and points of action that we are going to take. Right, without wasting any more time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to allow and ask that we raise to our feet and take our anthems, the East African anthem and the Ugandan anthem in the reverse order. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me request you to stand so we can be able to take our anthems, and immediately after that, we will have refreshments at the pool side. Please make sure that you come through because we would like to share a bite or a drink with you before you get to leave. So to our technical team, let's have the anthems in the reverse order.
Mungu twaomba unilinde Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tulilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
All right, we will allow the guest of honor to exit first, and kindly, our guest of honor, allow to have a bite and a drink with us with a cocktail before you get to leave. Our guest of honor exits with the State Minister of Finance Planning and Economic Development. Thank you so much, Honorables, for making time. They will be followed by the Honorable Members of Parliament and the Board of the National Population Council to as well partake of our cocktail. Ladies and gentlemen, our cocktail is at the pool side. Please, let's indulge. Let's make sure that we are a part of this particular one. Thank you very much to each and every one of you. There are lots of statistics that have been raised and said and paid attention to. What do they exactly mean to wealth creation, to development? That is the bigger conversation that we are supposed to take. And if you haven't received a copy of the report, feel free to get to the registry right behind. I know if you don't get a soft copy, I mean a physical copy, you will still be able to be availed the soft copy of this report. Otherwise, may God bless you with journey mercies. Until we meet again, have a good evening.